Micah Cook had it all: glory, status, and a future at Alabama, but a fatal car accident left him with a shattered leg. His career-threatening injury forced him to sit out his entire senior season, and powerhouse programs rescinded their scholarships, led by Alabama. However, with the help of a local coach, Micah walked on to one of the worst teams in college football, FIU. With a leg brace and nothing to lose, he fought through the pain and worked his way up the depth chart, but still spent most of his time on the bench during their first game. Despite this, when his opportunity finally came, he made a statement with a 51-yard touchdown on his first carry. But was it just a flash of brilliance, or was Micah about to really cook? After accepting his NIL deal, Micah spent most of the week training and meeting with Coach Terry after practice to review film. He knew he had a real chance to become a starter before the season was over, but for now, he was still running back number 2 as Central Michigan flew into town for FIU's home opener. Even though he expected a low fan turnout, Micah felt like the atmosphere was severely underwhelming. He knew this wouldn't be the Alabama crowd that he once dreamed about, but to him, it felt more like a mid-season high school game. Micah quickly had to refocus as once again the starting offense came out flat and they found themselves down 12-0 after the first quarter. Coach Terry let Micah know during film study that he would get more sweeps called because he knew that Micah could beat Central Michigan with speed to the outside. And so, to open up the second quarter, Micah got his first sweep called and beat the defenders with speed just like Coach said he would. Micah wasn't much of a trash talker, but after stiff-arming a defender on their sidelines and being pushed, he let them know that he would be terrorizing them all night. Micah's post-play antics seemed to fire everyone up because the offense would go on to finally score their first touchdown of the game. However, after the first touchdown, Micah watched the offense struggle for most of the first half, and they would enter the third quarter down 21-14 when his second sweep play was called for him. Micah really felt like starting running back Keyjon was out to sabotage not only him, but the entire offense. He purposely missed another key block, but Micah was so shifty that he made the defender miss before ending his spectacular run with a dive in the end zone to get his second touchdown of the season and tie the game at 21. Micah spent the rest of the third quarter on the sideline treadmill after he felt a bit of stiffness in his leg. He really wanted to remove his leg brace, but the trainers wouldn't let him just yet. He was cleared to play and entered back into the game early in the fourth quarter for what's becoming his signature sweep play. It almost felt too easy for Micah as he was gashing the defense like they were a little league team, but as he got up and ran to the sideline, he felt a sharp pain in his leg. He made the costly mistake of not telling the training staff about the pain, but more on this decision later. After Micah's game-tying touchdown early in the third quarter, both defenses really put on a show and kept the offenses scoreless until FIU finally made a field goal. With under 2 minutes left and the ball in the red zone, Micah got the call once again to seal the victory and lead FIU to their first win of the season. But Central Michigan had other plans. Their defensive coordinator finally figured out the play call and shaded both linebackers to the weak side in order to stop Micah. Even though Micah didn't score, Central Michigan was forced to use all of their timeouts and the FIU offense kicked a field goal to go up 6 with less than a minute left. Players were laughing and beginning to celebrate. Fans were starting to leave the stadium, and the game appeared to be won. Then, something jaw-dropping happened. Central Michigan scored their only touchdown of the second half on a Hail Mary to beat the Panthers by 1 point, 28-27. Was this loser's luck because FIU had been a losing program for years? In a matter of seconds, their record went from potential 1-1 to 0-2 as they dropped their first away and home game. The entire stadium, including Micah, was stunned. But the only thing to do was look forward to next week when the Panthers take on their in-state South Florida rival, FAU. Micah never heard of the Shula Bowl, but everyone's increased energy rubbed off on him and he found himself training much harder in preparation for the big game. But this would be a mistake as Micah was beginning to put too much strain on his leg. The extra training sessions led to bad practices, and he felt like he could re-injure himself if he wasn't careful. But as most players do, he said nothing. Before everyone knew it, the Panthers were on the team bus riding across town to take on FAU. Even though the stadium was small and somewhat empty, Micah still felt the energy in the air, and he could tell that this game really mattered. However, once again, the offense continued to leave their effort in the locker room as they were down 10 at the end of the first quarter before finally scoring a touchdown in the early second. After the defense forced a turnover, Coach Terry called a halfback slam, in which Micah would have to lead block for starter Keyshawn. As Micah left the huddle, he thought back to those moments when it looked like Keyshawn was purposely missing blocks for him, and now he had the chance to return the favor. Micah wasn't like Keyshawn though. His dad taught him to be a team player, so he was willing to do whatever it took to help his team win. He not only led block for Keyshawn, but he got the touchdown breaking block that allowed Keyshawn to go untouched up the middle for 80 yards. It's a shame that Keyshawn didn't care to block for Micah, because he had the chance to redeem himself later in the second quarter or Micah's signature sweep play, but instead opted to run right by another defender and Micah lost 4 yards. The O-line was blown up into the backfield, but there was still a chance that Micah could have rounded the edge with Keyshawn's block. It didn't matter though, because a few plays afterwards, Keyshawn scored another long touchdown right before the end of the second half, putting an ecstatic FIU team up 21-10. FIU's halftime excitement would be short-lived though, as FAU quickly scored a touchdown and surprise 2-point conversion to open the third quarter, closing the gap to 3. Even though nobody knew about Micah's leg pain, the game was working out in his favor. He spent most of his time blocking and even showed great effort when he whiffed on a block, but circled back to clean up a defender as Keyshawn ran down the sideline. This led to Keyshawn's third touchdown of the day, and FIU was up 30-18 entering the fourth quarter. Micah only had 1 carry for -4 yards when Coach Terry called his signature sweep play again. Keyshawn missed another block, but this time Micah used his small distraction to sprint around the edge and towards the end zone. He played it off well, but his leg was in pain and he got caught at the 1-yard line. A quarterback sneak from the 1 put FIU up 37-18 and the game felt over. But after last week's last-second Hail Mary loss, nobody on the team was too excited just yet. The score was 40-24 after FAU scored another touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game, and Coach Terry wanted to ensure that the game was over this time. He stayed aggressive with his play calling, and the offense drove all the way down the field before Coach let Micah redeem himself with a 5-yard touchdown run. Just like that, the offense put up a whopping 47 points against their crosstown rivals, and Micah even got to experience his first collegiate victory formation, which his dad always told him was the best play in football. The victory against FAU was a huge morale boost for the FIU football team. Not only did they finally get to experience a taste of victory after a tough loss, but they also proved that they could put big numbers on the scoreboard. Keyshawn was a player of the game with 172 yards and 3 touchdowns, while Micah only had 37 yards and 1 touchdown. But that was the least of his worries. He knew that if he was going to eventually start this season, he would have to resolve the issues that his leg was causing him. After last week's game, there was only a slight pain, but now he felt as if he was on the verge of possibly missing games due to his leg. He had a tough decision to make: tell the trainers about his leg and possibly sit out, or continue playing and hoping things don't get worse. The FIU Panthers knew that a D3 school was coming to Miami this week, and even for a lower tier school like FIU, that meant this could be a big stat game for everyone. Micah took the field against the Astronauts in deep pain once again, but laid it all on the line as he was not only battling against the pain, but against starter Keyshawn and even third-string senior running back Lexington, who was also looking for his big break. Micah was going to have his best day yet, racking up his first 100-yard rushing game and scoring another touchdown, but third-string running back Lexington stole the show with 185 yards, while starter Keyshawn had an abysmal 24-yard performance. Even though the score was only 21-7, Micah and his teammates felt like they were always in control and were now 2-2 on the season. However, Coach Terry didn't agree. He thought that the offense was flat after scoring 47 points in a blowout win last week. Looking to improve the offense quickly, Coach Terry decided to amp up the competition by announcing position battles. All of Micah's pain and suffering the last few weeks was for this moment. Did he do enough to earn a position battle against Keyshawn? Did third stringer Lexington steal his chance after rushing for almost 200 yards? The offense was wondering who would be losing their job next week and riding the bench. It was a make or break week for Micah as he approached his 5th game of the season against Louisiana Tech. He woke up from a nap and had 2 text messages waiting for him. The first from his academic advisor congratulating him on acing his recent tests, but Micah forgot to text back because he caught a glimpse of his other text message from Trevor, Coach Terry's assistant. He had been anticipating the opportunity to fight for a starting job since the beginning of the season, and things were finally becoming real. Not only was the running back job up for grabs, but so was the receivers and tight ends. It was a chance for someone new to step in and elevate the often flat offense. There could be a potential new face of the program. A star could be born. Micah wanted to be that person for the FIU offense, but he knew that he couldn't continue ignoring the nagging pain in his leg. The injury from the car accident that killed his father had taken its toll on him. He knew he could withstand the pain a bit more, but if he wanted to be 100% and truly lead the offense, he would need to let the training staff know sooner than later. However, that day wasn't here just yet, because Micah arrived at practice later that afternoon with a burning desire to earn the starting job. Somebody was losing their job today. The only question was who. As position battles began, both Micah and Kijan were put through 3 drills and they both dominated. Kijan was selfish, but he wasn't a bad player. However, the offense just appeared to flow better with Micah, and the stats didn't lie. Kijan was the second leading rusher in the conference, but Micah had just as many yards on a third of the carries, and he also averaged twice as many yards per carry. By the end of practice, there were 2 new starting offensive playmakers, wide receiver Eric Rivers and running back Micah Cook. Micah's journey to this moment had been long and filled with challenges, both on and off the field. From losing his father in a car accident to having all of his D1 offers stripped away, he had faced adversity head on and persevered. And now, he had finally earned his spot on the field as a starter while still wearing his leg brace. With his leg in mind, Micah decided to double up on his training to prepare for his first start. The Panthers were 2-2 on the season, and Louisiana Tech was their first conference game, so this was Micah's chance to instantly start leading his team in the right direction. Nobody knew, but he was going to start his first ever collegiate game with a high risk of injury. There was a heavy downpour as the Panthers ran onto the soaked field for a noon kickoff. Most teams are expected to run the ball heavily during rain games, but Coach Terry dialed up 2 straight play-action passes to catch the defense off guard and connected big with new starter Eric for the Panthers' very first opening drive touchdown of the season. Then, to follow it up, Micah delivered an untouched 76-yard lightning strike on his first carry the very next drive. Things already felt different and the Panthers offense was rolling early. They were up 17-14 in the second quarter when Micah's worst fear finally happened. After receiving multiple carries on the same drive, Micah was slow to get up after a seemingly normal tackle. His shattered leg was technically healed per x-rays, but there was still a sharp pain in his leg at times, so he had no choice but to finally let the trainers know. Even though he already made a big play, he felt like he let himself and the team down, and he even thought he would lose the job he just earned. A crushed Micah watched the game from the sidelines as the trainers worked to relieve some of the pain in his leg. However, the offense was still dominant even without Micah. They put up a season-high 27 first-half points and held a comfortable lead through the third quarter. Micah wanted to play badly, especially since it was his first start, so he downplayed the real pain he was experiencing to the trainers and got back in the game to open the fourth quarter. Running off pure adrenaline, he caught his first pass of the season on a key 3rd and 6, but took a bad hit at the end and then fell on his leg awkwardly the very next play. He did not want to leave the game again due to another injury, but it was hard to protect his entire leg from hits and falls. Coach Terry called Micah's signature sweep play, and Micah planned to run outside and eventually go out of bounds to avoid any hits, but Louisiana Tech's defensive end had other plans. As he was heading outside, the defensive end taunts the tight end to the side like a ragdoll, forcing Micah to cut up. But his true 5-star talent was on full display as he burst through a hole and juked out the safety before taking off towards the end zone. The adrenaline rush Micah felt made the pain non-existent, and it was the first time he showed off his real speed all season, easily pulling away from the defense. It wasn't his longest, but it was definitely the best run of his career so far. Up 37-14 in the fourth, the game felt out of reach, but Louisiana Tech would eventually score twice to cut the lead to 43-27. They were out of timeouts, so Coach Terry called on Micah one final time to close out the game with 2 minutes left. His adrenaline wore off after sitting on the sidelines most of the fourth quarter, but Micah had enough energy in the tank to perform not 1, but 2 spin cycles on defenders to seal the victory and put FIU up 3-2 on the season. It was an electric performance from Micah, who won Player of the Game honors with 185 yards and 2 touchdowns on only 8 carries. But Micah felt like he would have done so much more if his leg didn't sideline him. Nevertheless, things were finally looking up for an offense that was struggling all season. It had came at the perfect time because after their bye week, the Panthers go on the road to face the #1 team in the conference, the Liberty Flames.